Hey everybody, this is Perch. We're nearing kind of the end of an easy bait for nostalgia in comics and movies and media in general. And I say we're nearing the end, but you still see plenty of it going on. Nostalgia for a period of time was just the go-to for a lot of entertainment. And, you could definitely look at things like Star Wars and Marvel and Star Trek and everything else. And, your argument might be, no, it's not that people got tired of them. It's that they actively, took steps to alter the brand and fans didn't, like it. And I think there's truth to that for sure. The Star Wars, narrative and vibe was a certain way. And then they started to explore doing new things. And it's the most charitable way I could probably put it. And it just didn't take with a lot of fans. The intention was, hey, this will, the old fans won't mind. And this will bring in new fans who will have something in it for them. The new fans didn't really come other than supporting it on Twitter. At least it didn't come financially. And the older fans were like, I don't like this anymore. It's not what I remember. And you had that issue. So certainly that's been going on. But another thing that's in there, and I think over time is the bigger problem, is just nostalgia. It has a shelf life. It only works for a period of time. Kind of for two reasons. One of which is obvious. If nostalgia, the idea of like, hey, remember this thing that you liked when you were younger and now it's back? Doesn't that make you feel kind of like when you were younger again? And isn't that kind of a good feeling? Well, they've mined a lot of that. And if you think about generations growing up, I mean, the nostalgia stuff we're going to pull from now is like from, the very late 90s to, 2010. And I mean, you saw this in comic books when they're like, hey, you remember Heroes Were Born in the late 90s? We're going to do Heroes Were Born again. And it has nothing to do with Heroes Were Born, but doesn't that logo make you feel good? And it's like, I'm sorry. You're asking, you're not tapping into people's childhood. For a lot of comic creators, you're tapping into people in their early 20s. And now, they're a lot older than that. And you're saying, hey, do you want to remember Heroes Were Born? Well, first of all, Heroes Were Born wasn't that amazing of a thing to remember in the first place. And second, like you're just inching up. I think we're 5 to 10 years away from somebody to be like, hey, you remember Bluey? Remember you have some nostalgia for Bluey? Well, we're going to bring Bluey back. And I mean, it's half this audience has no idea what I'm talking about right now. But anyway, nostalgia you can't just keep mining it forever and ever. And nostalgia only works if the property wants to be remembered, if it's valuable and useful and people have fond memories about it. If they have unfond memories about it, nostalgia is not great. Be like the Democrats going, hey, you remember Michael Dukakis? Doesn't that make you feel good? Here's some more Michael Dukakis. Nobody wants that nostalgia. It's not everything. So we've been seeing it roll through. And this letter writer's talking about kind of the balance of it all. And balancing nostalgia and innovation. It's a tough question, but we're definitely in a place right now where for comics, they've been tapping into nostalgia for a period of time, and now they do have to get onto that innovation part. And that turns out that's trickier. Nostalgia is way easier because you can rely on member berries and other things to just fill in the gaps of a missing plot. But anyway, this mail goes, hey Perch, hope you're doing well. As a fan of alternate Earth stories, I'm excited about DC's upcoming announcement of the Absolute Universe. We're about to hear more about that, of course, at the con. However, I've noticed that it seems to revisit some familiar concepts, such as the defund Batman from the James Tynion run, a more alien Superman reminiscent of New 52 and Earth 1, and a Warrior Woman version of Wonder Woman from the New 52. This leads me to wonder, what drives DC's decision to revisit pre-existing ideas instead of introducing fresh, innovative concepts inspired by their legacy characters? If the goal is to engage newer and younger readers, could there be opportunities to explore distinct tastes? For instance, what if Batman was reimagined with traits similar to Tim Drake from the 2009 Red Robin series, or Superman incorporated elements of Connor Kent's evolution? Additionally, could Wonder Woman be inspired by Donna Troy's journey to explore modern life in man's world or her connections to the Titans of myth? I'm curious about your perspective on why DC might choose to revisit familiar themes with the same characters rather than embracing new possibilities that could infuse their stories with fresh, youthful energy. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on it. Well, first off, in the Absolute Universe, I have a pretty good sense of what's going on with Batman. And I do think there's a lot of pretty new, innovative things. I think, it's not reminiscent of the defund Batman story. It's got very different things going on, and pretty fresh take. I don't know as much about Superman. Know a little bit more about Wonder Woman, and there will be some kind of Rucka elements from it, or from the New 52 run, but it will also have a pretty different feel, just in terms of kind of the mandate, the mission, the character. So I think it will. So first off, I think the absolute run will probably be a lot more different than you think, and I think that some of the elements of Batman will surprise you. I would say, of not just being kind of a couple degrees apart. It will feel pretty different, and I think the overall vibe for the story, and it's a risk, right? Because here's the thing, and I think it goes to your question, is there's a reason why comic companies typically only take, a step or two away from the norm, or why they revisit familiar themes. It's a safer bet. If they know that something worked once, go back and try it again. Just run the same play. Generally speaking, that works out in terms of sales and finances. Comic readers, as much as we'd like to call ourselves risk takers or wanting bold new ideas, generally speaking, sales and history tell us that we don't want bold new ideas. We want kind of comfortable, familiar ideas. And this is a dynamic that the publishers I know struggle with, because I put it this way: it's like we introduced Blade's daughter. Why aren't all of you loving Blade's daughter? It's like, no, we'd rather have Blade. It's like, yeah, but we went for something new, kind of a fresh take on the character. Give him a daughter, and what does that mean as a parent, and everything else. And by the way, I'm reminded of a comic writer sent me a meme, and it's one of those things where I get mail sometimes that is super, super offensive. And this writer is, I wonder if I should be telling this story. Let me just say, this writer has a number of friends who are, very socially conscious, let's say. And this meme was about Blade's daughter. It's probably the most racist thing I've ever seen. It was putting in some questions about her parentage. Let's just go with that. And I every now and then I get stuff like that, and I'm always thinking, like, I'm of the approach that memes and shit posting is very different than going out and being racist in real life or sexist or anything else. Maybe that's a justification on my part, but I work and meet and engage a lot of people in real life, and I think this is a Gen X kind of way to be. I treat everybody with respect and fairness. I do my best, and when I don't achieve those goals, I push myself to do better. When it comes to like scrolling around on Facebook, I don't feel shame if I come across like a super inappropriate joke. It's a joke. Now, jokes can hurt people for sure, but anyway, regardless, I'm struck by. I wouldn't have expected it from this writer. Neither would any of you. I'll just leave it there as a tease. I could end this guy's career. I won't, because that's also wrong. Anyway, where was I going with this? Look, so my point is, they brought out this new take on the character, and it was rejected. And now you could say, well, it was rejected because the story wasn't very good, the art wasn't very good, the writer is a maniac. I mean, you could go to all those things. But the character just appeared again in this Blood Hunt series, and it's not doing better. Like, people are just like not into this character. So why not? Why aren't comic readers into kind of new and innovative? Well, again, lots of arguments. You can spend an entire video just talking about that part. But generally speaking, people want that balance. The readers, the customers, they want familiar, and then they want, a few new ideas sprinkled in. But generally, if push comes to shove, readers will often pick, familiar over new, 9 times out of 10. And the comic publishers know this, and they may not like it, but they will go back to that well a lot. I think that, what you got to have happen is, in my mind at least, is you have to have a combination between these iconic, characters, this IP that everybody knows, and then you have to put them in situations that test them in new ways, but that they still hold true to themselves. If you're doing a Green Lantern story, and you've got Hal Jordan, and you've got John Stewart, and you've got Guy Gardner, right? And you put them into a situation, and they've done this before, but you're on a foreign planet, and the power battery runs out, and now they've got to survive on their wits and ingenuity, and they no longer have the crutch of their ring. So how does it change their dynamic? Well, Hal Jordan was a risk taker, But you could explore some storylines that part of the reason why he's continued to be a risk taker and continued to lean into that is because the ring was a backup door. It basically gave him protection over himself. He was inspired to take more risks because he had a safety net and he knew it. If he acted and behaved as irrationally as sometimes he does and didn't have the ring, he'd be dead by now. It wouldn't have worked out. There's more to Hal Jordan's character. I'm pointing one aspect out of it. So losing the ring, how does he change? How does he shift? Does he become more cautious? Does he, what goes on there? Jon Stewart, okay, probably he's going to engage best without the ring because, a military man, tactician. He's strategic thinking. So maybe he's going to suddenly become more of the leader than kind of Hal Jordan's natural charisma because he's able to kind of get them out of the situation. Guy Gardner resolves on, grit. And, the default answer may be, hey, without his ring, he's going to, kind of shrink. It's like a bully who takes away a lot of their power. But what if we experiment with the idea that, when push comes to shove and his back's up against the wall, that Guy Gardner's grit and determination and kind of brash ways of doing things becomes an asset. I mean, so you could take characters, you could put them in something very new, threatening, and different, and then but still hold up to themselves and explore about how it changes their personality and other things. That's the balance you need. You need to anchor on the familiar, and then you push them into uncomfortable different areas. So that's how it should be done. You could do it with Elseworlds type things as well. I think to one of the things you said, I think it would be very interesting to have a Batman with more of a Tim Drake-like background of like, okay, we're really going to lean into the detective part of it. This is my own opinion. You can bash me in the comments. I'm doing a lot of takes here you probably disagree with, but my strong feeling here is that DC will say, oh, he's a detective, but you rarely see him being a detective. And in many cases, being a detective translates to goes into the cave and like stares at a computer monitor and puts, goo into vials and they're like, analyze this for me. It must be the Joker. Like, this doesn't feel like, the world's greatest detective. And, there's definitely been stories that have leaned in that direction, but more often than not, they don't. They kind of use kind of the magical plot of, no, he's just smart and knows everything. And that becomes his shortcut. So, but, I'd love to see a story where he truly is leaning into more of the kind of Tim Drake personalities and being a detective and everything else. But I think you can do that within the story. You don't have to turn it all around. You don't have to go like, what if Batman was actually Filipino and he's in Hong Kong for some reason and now he's a detective there. We're doing a whole new take on. You can actually take current Batman, current status quo, current cave, and you could thrust him into a situation where it's like, maybe he believes he's a great detective, and then he gets involved in a plot that's more dangerous to him, and he's outsmarted, kind of the classic Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes thing, and he's consistently outsmarted. And even when he wins in the end, he still loses, and he realizes he's just not as clever, and so he has to then go, work to actually push the brain part. He's trained his body, but what about the mind? Is he as good? He's not as good as he thought he was. So now we're going to work on that. I don't know. Maybe that's not very cinematic storytelling, but yeah, I get your point. Thank you very much for the mail. Appreciate it. Curious everybody's thoughts in here. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.